Hey y'all, and welcome to the Get My Life Tour. It is me, your host, Lydia T. Blanco. And as always, I'm hype because you decided to show up for yourself and take center stage. If this is your first time tuning into the Get My Life Tour, welcome. You did it. Okay, you here. That's what's up. If this is your umpteenth time tuning in, welcome back. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being a rider. Okay, going from stop to stop on the Get My Life Tour. We are in the thick of season 4, and I am so excited about today's stop because I have a heavy hitter taking center stage, and he is going to show up and show out. I can feel it in my bones, honestly, right? And so you're probably looking at him like, "Oh, who was that? Okay, hold on. Wait, give me a second. I'm about to intro him in." And I hope that you are ready because we are getting our lives personally, but professionally today. You're probably like, what does that mean? Look, the world as we know it, the workforce as we know it is changing. Everyone is pivoting or thinking about pivoting or preparing to pivot. And that's what we're going to get into today on this stop of the tour, and so much more, of course, right? Because this is a How Through Lifestyle podcast. But before I say too much and give away the episode, allow me to introduce Andrew McCaskill to the Get My Life Tour. Andrew is a culture analyst, inclusion champion, and a marketing executive. Yes, you heard me correctly. He's also doing great things at LinkedIn. But before joining LinkedIn, he most recently led diversity, inclusion, and strategy for global sales, marketing, public affairs function at Facebook, and US consumer marketing and global communications at Nielsen, excuse me. While at Nielsen, he led communications for Nielsen China and was named one of PR the Week's top 40 under 40 PR executives. Come on. I mean, he's just giving it. And he also co-authored the award-winning Diverse Intelligence series on the economic and cultural impact of multicultural consumers. He is called a diversity champion by Fortune magazine. He also served as the global executive sponsor for Nielsen's LGBTQ employee business groups for all over the world and was part of the team of professionals who worked with queer advocacy groups to bring LGBTQ audience measurement to fruition. Look, this man has been featured in the New York Times, US Today, Forbes, Fortune, and Adweek, so on and so forth. Let's just say he's doing great things. And today, he's here because he is going to help us get our lives, get our careers, and get ready for what is next for us personally and professionally. Need I say more? Most likely not. So help me welcome Andrew to the Give My Life Tour. Come on, round of applause. Glitter, glitter, confetti, confetti. What up?
Lydia, I can't tell you how excited and appreciative I am for you to have me on the Get My Life tour. I'm happy to be a stop on this amazing tour and to get a chance to talk to you and to get a chance to talk to your audience today. That bio is long. I'm gonna have to shorten that. Whoever sent it to you, I'm gonna tell them to like cut some of that out. But I'm proud of every part of that tour, of that sort of professional journey, and I'm down to talk about the parts that's not in the bio, the parts that like are less like ooh la la, right? The parts where people were not applauding. So I'm ready when you're ready.
Look, those are the parts we're here for. Okay.
Yeah.
How through the operative words. You know, I'm loving the energy. I'm loving all of the vibrant colors. I'm here for all of this. Okay. And so there is so much more to you, like you're saying, outside of the bio. So let's get things popping. In your own words, who is Andrew?
I'm a storyteller. I mean, that's what I was put on the planet to do. I mean, I'm a Sunday school boy, grew up on a farm in Mississippi. So part of who I am authentically is a Christian. And I take it back to Isaiah 61. The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is upon me, and I've been anointed to tell good news, to help set the captives free. And that's what I feel like I do in my personal life, what I do professionally, is a storyteller. I know that I'm better at that than most people, and I'm good at helping other people tell their stories. I just happen to do that in a corporate function during the daytime from 9 to 5, even though my job is never just 9 to 5. But I know what my purpose, what my gift is, and what my purpose is. I think the other thing too is that I also happen to be, you know, a Black man living in America. I am a Black man who has been in corporate spaces and been in those spaces where I was oftentimes the first one or the only one. Thank God that I left every one of those spaces, more diverse than they were when I got there. And I happen to be an out Black gay executive in the technology industry, which I think adds some nuance to my lived experience as a professional as well. And all of those things. But at the end of the day, I am and a Black boy from a dirt road in Mississippi that's trying to make himself and his parents and proud, and trying to have some positive impact on the spaces where I'm in, so that they're better tomorrow than they were when I got to them. That's it. That's really what I'm trying to do.
Trying. You mean that's what you're doing? Like, that is exactly what you are doing.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people are throwing titles around loosely. We don't have to get into the actual title you carry, right? Because who you are and how you show up carries so much more weight than that. But you are a Black male executive who, like you said, is a proud man, right? And the way that you show up, I mean, the way that you just shared what you do, you are not trying. I will never forget when someone said, "This is me trying. I'm trying to move my finger. I'm trying to move my finger. This is me moving my finger," right? And so I feel when you say trying, I'm like, no, there's nothing trying about what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And so it's so important that we celebrate you because you are actually doing the work. A lot of people talk the talk, right? Diversity has definitely become a buzzword.
Yeah.
But the fact that you said, I'm leaving spaces, and I'm paraphrasing here, but I'm leaving spaces more diverse than I found them. It reminds me of, this, oh, I don't know if it's like a African proverb, but something I've heard in our community for so long, right? You leave people and places better than you found
Yeah.
them. Where does that come from?
I think it comes from being a person that comes into spaces and you not knowing what to expect, right? It comes from, hey, I don't want to go and be the only one. That's not success for me. Like, if I don't want to go and be the only shiny Black person in the office. There's room for a whole bunch of shiny Black folks, right? Like, I think that is in the situations when I've been that the one, it's always so much pressure. It's like, I don't want to just look around and only see me. That's not what makes me feel special. What makes me feel special is when I look around and then I see more and more and more of us, right? And if I create some opportunity for somebody, hopefully that person will then create some opportunity for somebody else, right? So the pie gets bigger. I think the people have this mindset around success being a zero-sum game, and I've never believed that. I've never believed that for me to get big, somebody else has to get small. I think that if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing in the spaces where I am, then the pie gets bigger and there's more room for other people to come in. Like, we walk around, I think that part of the narrative that I try to beat away in corporate spaces, particularly when I engage people from underrepresented groups, people who are, when I talk to women, when I talk to queer people, when I talk to people who are ethnically diverse, is like, somewhere out there, somebody has told us that there's opportunity is scarce.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Absolutely.
And what I truly believe, and this is what I tell other Black people and other queer people in our office every day. And I was like, look around you. You are walking around in abundance.
Mm.
There is abundance out here. It's like anybody who has like taught you to believe that there's only space for one, there's only a little bit, don't ask for too much. It's gonna be just be like that. Be really, really get that crumb and be like really, 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 really grateful. That is a mindset of scarcity. You should be operating in a mindset of audacious abundance because there is so much abundance around you, right? And like, how do you think about tapping into that abundance and that abundance mindset? So like even with my direct reports, my employees, I always say to them, it's like, you can never have to worry about having a conversation with me about money and about compensation. Like, let's have that conversation. We talk about money every day in
I love
companies.
that.
why why should compensation be any different? Now, I'm not gonna tell you that every conversation that you have with me is gonna be where I'm gonna say, you get a raise, you get a raise, you get a raise, right? But our fear that we have in talking about money, um, I think permeates a lot of our success module, right? Like our success paradigm. I I came from I grew up in an upper middle class family, right? Um, all four of my grandparents went to college, and so you can think about all the things that that means for that generation.
Yeah.
Both my parents went to college, all my brothers and sisters, have degrees and master's degrees or whatever. But I never had real conversations with my parents about money, not for real conversations, right? And you um, and I feel like that we're oftentimes very secret squirrel about money because we're kind of even from little kids, we're
Yeah.
kind of taught that that's grown folks' business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think about the fact that all of the mistakes that I made with money in my 20s. And I talk about them very freely and openly with my mentees and stuff like that, because oftentimes we have no idea in our community what our parents' financial situation is until somebody
Right.
gets sick or somebody dies. And that should never be the
Absolutely.
case, right? And so I think even with our peers, there's so much shame and ego tied up with money. So you may have, many of us won't have a Black senior executive who is going to be like that ivory tower person that's going to feed into our career and give us advice or whatever. If you're lucky enough to get a mentor or a sponsor like that, then that's
Right.
amazing. But many of us have to peer-to-peer mentor each other, and there's all this shame and ego tied up in talking about money and compensation. But I can tell you that when my group chat, my boys, and we got really serious and started to talk to each other about comp and about benefits and all of those things, we all got richer. And I use that word from the standpoint of, there may or may not be millionaires in that group chat, right? But I use that term richer because that's where the richness of rich is about being smart about the money that you have so that you're never operating in lack. You're always operating in abundance, right? So rich is different for different people. And we all got richer when we started to be honest with each other and talk about money, right? We got smarter. We peer-to-peer mentored each other about those things. I had never negotiated for equity in my first tech job. When I got my first tech job, I never negotiated for equity. I didn't know how to run the numbers and run the math on it. And I was a big grown ass age when that happened, right? And so I had to have those conversations with other people who had done it, right? And my people suffer for lack of information, right? The people perish for lack of information. And I think that that's the piece of it, is like we have that information share a lot more. I just believe that.
Let me tell you something. What you're not going to do is come on here and drop the mic, pick it up, drop it, twirl it around, throw it on the ground, jump off the stage, go backstage, come back, in all of this in the first 3 to 5 minutes. Okay. I need you to chill out.
I'm chill. I'm chill. I'm chill. I'm gonna wait for you to ask me some questions.
Relax. Okay.
Right.
No, I'm over here like this, trying not to make too many sounds, because what you shared is real. I have these conversations now with my mom, my sister, my friends, and I'm like, look, we got to be a bit more honest right?
Yeah.
Because that honesty is healing, that honesty is helpful. And like you said, it is very enriching.
Yeah.
Being able to have these challenging conversations where you get a little naked and talk about, you know, what you're working towards, what you're working on, what you have or what you don't, and then sharpening your tools through conversation
Yeah.
is essential, especially for us in our community, because we have been so tight-lipped, right? Like you said, grown folks business. It even reminds me of like when birthdays come around and people are like, well, don't tell them how much money you got in your car, and it's like, well,
Exactly. Exactly.
where do we get that from, right? And it does not help us. You know, I know we're going to get into LinkedIn, right? And a lot of
Mhm.
the ways that you can use the tools, this, that, and the third. But I was recently blown away because the number that I had put out there had actually come back to me, right?
Mm.
Using this LinkedIn feature and just having a conversation and mustering up the courage, right? But I bring that up because what I had to practice was literally being brave enough to say things out loud to people who I thought may judge me or discourage me because of how ambitious I was planning on being,
Yeah.
right? But getting uncomfortable in that way and then having that conversation with people I could trust about money really, I feel like, formed what came back to me, right?
Yeah.
Being honest and being like, look, this is what I'm looking for. And then like just practicing that a bit, but really leaning on my network, right, of people for their information and their approach as well. So you said so much already. Okay, okay. All
Yeah.
right, Andrew. I see what you're doing here. I'm so glad, you know, and I hope that some of what you've already shared is really encouragement for someone who is looking for, you know, tools to begin to have those honest conversations, right? You are in tech, right?
Yeah.
And so the bag definitely looks different in that
Yeah.
industry.
It
And
does.
for a lot of us who may not have grown up with access or resources in the form of money or, you know, network, whatever the case may be, it is a little difficult, right, to navigate these spaces where people are throwing large numbers at you. They're, you know, saying words like equity, and you're like, vesting and over what period? And what are you
Yeah.
talking about, right?
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
what? So, what are some of the other ways that you have, I guess, learned the lay of the land and the language to be able to advocate for yourself and
Yeah.
others, especially being in the D&I space, DE&I space?
Yeah. The one of the things that I think I always say to folks is that so much of work is negotiable. We have this mindset that everything is very rigid, and that there are these stark staid rules, right? I'll give you a short example of where um God used a situation early on in my professional life to teach me a really interesting lesson about the fact that many things that we don't think are negotiable, right? Like I was on a student exchange at Dartmouth College, and I had done this exchange program. I was only going to be there for a semester. It was snowing sideways in my face in Hanover, New Hampshire. Nobody could cut my hair. Like it was like an experience, right? Because I had gone from Atlanta and Morehouse to Hanover, New Hampshire, and Dartmouth, right? And so
Oh,
Dartmouth, right?
sounds like you
Dartmouth.
got lighter in the winter.
I really did. My fade was gone, and it was a lot, right? But it was a great experience. It was a great learning experience, and I met a woman who changed my life in a lot of different ways. And she's a Black woman who was running marketing she was running consumer marketing at Coca-Cola at the time, and we were having this conversation because she was an alum and about me coming to work for her, and I was like, oh, but I haven't finished out the term. I was like, can I do that? She was like, well, just come work for me for the semester, and then just jump back into your academic program when you get done working for me. And I was like, I don't think I can do that. You can't do that. Like you can't, like it's like 4 years or whatever. Like I feel like I think it would that make me my mom and dad have to pay more money for me another semester. She was like, I don't think you understand. She was like, why are you in college? You're in college to get an education so that you can go out and create opportunities for you to live your best life and all these things. She was like, what makes you think this is, you're going to learn more in 6 months working for me than you're going to learn in this classroom that's going to relate to how you make money and live your life and provide and all these other things for you in the future. And I was like, but can I do that? She was like, yeah, just ask. And I was like, they gonna say, I'm in my head, I'm thinking like all of the no's, they gonna say no, they gonna say no, they gonna say no. She was like, go to the bursar's office. She was like, if they, and just, go talk to academic affairs. And then if they have a problem, just, I'll talk to them. And I said,
Ooh.
Okay. I go and I ask, I get permission. I go to Atlanta. I have this amazing experience working for the Coca-Cola company, not understanding that I'm working for the largest brand in the world at this particular time. I learn all of this information. The experience is so good that Coca-Cola hires me as a contract employee the rest of my time in college. And so I then negotiated with Morehouse when I got back, and they said, I was like, hey, I want to work as a contract employee, and I still want to be able to get my degree. And they said, if you talk to your professors and they work with you and work around it. And I had no fear of asking my professors at that point. And so I asked my professors, they were all like, yeah, we'll help you do that. And I literally worked at Coke in the morning, went to class in the evening, worked at Coke after I went to class. And I graduated college having, 2 years of professional experience
Wow.
under my belt. It changed the complete trajectory of my career as well as me financially. And so I say that to say that, one, we have this perception that there are all of these things and you have not because you ask not. And so there's so many things that are negotiable, right? That we think aren't. So go in and negotiate. That's the other piece of it. The other piece is that negotiation is a performance art. And part of that is like you need a performance partner. You need someone that you can say, hey, I want to negotiate to sort of change the focus of my job. I want to add this other piece and take some of this off, but I need to make a plan for it and then figure out how it works for the business. And then I need to pitch it to my boss, right? You need to do that and rehearse it with somebody beforehand. Just like for a job interview, you need to rehearse that your story and how you talk about your experience with somebody else beforehand. So that when you get to that point and you're making your pitch is pitch perfect because you've rehearsed it, right? And so I think that we've got to be as strategic about our careers as those folks who are being strategic about their business, right? Because you're in the business of you, no matter if you're signing the front of the check or you're signing the back of the check. If you're the entrepreneur or you're the employee, you are still in the business of you every single day of your life.
Don't make me walk off. Don't make me do that. Okay, so I'm not sure if you're aware, but the tagline for the Get My Life Tour is how you live your life is your business.
I did not know that.
And you know what? You really just brought it home. And so I'm kind of lost for words right now because you really set us up for the next portion of our conversation. And I'm like, I wish I could be taking notes, but I'm not about to be crunching, right? And trying to record and produce and all these things. But how you live your life is your business. And I found that some people are offended by that statement, but the way that you just shared it really helps put it into perspective, right? Because showing up, how we show up, being able to craft our own story, right? In our career narratives or in business, right? Or in entrepreneurship is so essential.
Yeah.
And so I love that you opened up with scripture, right? And I love the fact that you are essentially, saying how you live your life is your business. And I really appreciate you going into the details of how you were able to negotiate and really partner to learn negotiation and be able to form your ask.
Yeah.
Look, I know there are some college students, even some high schoolers or some parents, mentors, sponsors, whomever who is tuned into this episode.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, do I need to transcribe this entire thing? Because you are really laying the foundation. So many of us think that we have to be on the ladder and go straight up. But I love the fact that what I'm hearing is it's not a ladder remove all the time. You have to be willing to ask and have great partners so that you can really explore all your options. You have been exploring options, sir, for quite some time, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, right? Like that's the other piece of it that I think that is lost oftentimes is that we spend so much time teaching our kids no and follow these rules, and this is the rule for this, and this is the rule for that, and a lot of that is makes a lot of sense because we live in a different world where there are lots of rules just for survival, right? But I think that we also have to, in the midst of that, that we have to talk to people of color and young people and women about infinite options and infinite opportunities, right? And we have to speak abundance into the lives of our younger folks, but some of us are, we in our 40s and people, and no one has spoken abundance into our lives in our entire lives, right? And so part of that is I speak life and I speak abundance over the lives of my friends and my family members, because you would be surprised at how many people have never had anybody speak abundance on them. They've always had people speaking no and shackles on them, right? Or you can't, or don't do that, or don't do that, or maybe you might not just be safe and sit in this little pocket right here. And I think there's a lot of opportunity outside of that little pocket, right? Like, and I think that's the piece of it that we have to have people like you that can drive that conversation to people that maybe not have anybody in their life to speak that into them, into their experience, and they can hear this podcast and hear the people that you are bringing on and say, oh, so I shouldn't normalize every conversation with my friends and my peer groups being about lack. I should normalize talking to my friends, regardless of what our current socioeconomic situation is. I can still speak abundance to my homegirl who just got laid off, right?
Absolutely.
Because this is what I learned this when I at a juncture in my career where I had a big job, a big title, and a big corporate checkbook. And me and that company mutually agreed to move on from each other at a very interesting time in my life. And I struggled. I struggled in the moment because I didn't realize how much in my personal life and in my own way of my own self-esteem, how much I traded on the currency of what came behind my name, right? What came behind the comment, my name, my title. I didn't realize how much I traded on the currency of that and how I felt about me, right? And it's interesting when you have a presence and you people know you for the big title and the big job and the big corporate checkbook, and you make those calls and you don't get your calls responded back to as fast when you don't have that big corporate checkbook, right? And it can make you think, well, is it me, or is it what were these people interested in when they were like, we love you, right? And so what God showed me in that moment, and I talk about God in my career all the time. I know people like to talk about sponsors and mentors, but I talk about where I get my help from, right? And
Absolutely.
so what God showed me in that moment was you still not too old to learn this lesson. And that lesson is, I will make room for your gifts. And I will put the right people in places for you so that God will shine so bright in you and stand up so tall in you that people won't help but be able to see you. They'll be mad because they can't stop seeing you, right? You'll be they'll be sick of you, right?
Okay.
Because of that, you know what I mean? But what I had to learn in that moment was that you have a mission, right? And so roles may change, but missions don't. And for me, my mission was always to create and carve out space to where I was giving people information to help them live better lives, right? To help them gain more reciprocity in their relationships with the people that they paid money to or the people who paid them money, right? So most of my work has been about showing people their economic power and their power to move culture. And now the pivot to LinkedIn, so much of my work is about showing people their power as it relates to being employees and to working for companies and working with companies. So God said, your role may change, but your mission doesn't. I left a job where I was at Nielsen and I was doing award-winning work, talking to, thousands of people, right? And when I no longer was doing that, I felt it, right? I was like, yo, like, I'm not getting the calls like I was before. But you then start to think, okay, am I getting the right calls, right? And so literally in a couple of weeks, I went from having those conversations as executive at Nielsen to thousands of people, which I thought was amazing. To then I became, of course, a contributor on Sirius XM, talking to millions of people. God will make room for your gifts. Your roles may change, but the mission doesn't. And so, once you get to think, if you're a corporate person and you're working for corporations or whatever, your job is not your mission, right? Like, you got to get really, really clear-eyed about what is my superpower? What does my superpower in action look like? And what is my superpower in action? What purpose does it serve? What is it in service to? Because you don't get to think to the mission part of it without thinking about what is this in service to, right? Some people may say, oh, it's in service to get this bag. I think that'll evolve over time. But if that's what it is in service to, be clear-eyed about that, because it'll help your decision-making process, right? Because we all need to make better, smarter decisions. And if you don't know yourself and you don't know the market and you don't know what the opportunities and the obstacles are, you won't make good decisions. And so for me, I had to get really clear-eyed about what my mission is. For me, mission is your superpower in action, in service to something. And once I got that down, it made all of my other decisions easier, because it also said that that's not a job. I may have jobs, but that is not a job. A job does not define me, and a job does not stop me, right? And so I have a big job right now. I have a big job at LinkedIn, and it's amazing, and I love it, and I love the work, and I love the people that I get to do it with, and I love the fact that it aligns with my personal values. But my mission extends beyond my job that is 9 to 5, and it's a good job. Like, I'm good. Like, I like my job, right? But that frees me to talk about what my mission is. So I got on a Nike jersey right now, right? And that's because I'm a Nike brand ambassador for their Be True campaign around LGBTQ athleticism and in love and sport, right? And so if I just thought about my life as this is my job, that's a singular thing. Your life and your professional life is so much bigger than one job, right? And so I've got a job here. I've got my brand ambassador thing that I do here. I'm still a contributor on Sirius XM, because that gives me an opportunity to talk to millions of people and give them information. And it's not in service to me. It's in service to empowerment and empowering people who look like me and giving them information that they may not get anywhere else. And so that being able to connect those dots, that says that's not about a job. That's about mission work. And here's the thing about mission work. God will make room for your talents, and he will give you opportunity that meets the size of your focus and your gratitude, right? You know how that you used to see that picture of Mace, that image of Mace when he was like running and he was like, I don't chase money, money chase me.
Yes.
Imagine being on purpose and on mission, and you're just doing what you know that you're supposed to be doing and doing the right things and being grateful to the source of that, right? And your phone keeps ringing, right? and your phone keeps ringing. Like, here's an opportunity. Like, I thought about you. Somebody says that they heard the speech that you gave the other day, and it did something, and it made a move for them. And so I think that there's a lot of opportunity out there that once people know you for something and that something is good, that's a bell that keeps on ringing, right? And you show up for it, it becomes a very different situation. And that was the career pivot for me. The point of true career pivot for me was getting really clear about what my mission is and what I want to be known for and what problems I want to solve in the world, because you're bigger than a job. You're bigger than a job. Jobs will come and they will go. There will be some jobs that are 100% vehicles and not destinations. And you got to be clear with that. You know, we've been taught, oh, you got to stay here and do this and put your head down and don't make no waves and don't do this and don't do that and be grateful for the crumbs and all this other kind of stuff. But my way of thinking about this is, yo, thank you, more please. That's what we should be saying to God, to the universe, whatever you call it, is thank you, more please, right? There's nothing wrong with saying this is good. I appreciate it. But I think more is possible. I think bigger is possible. We got to get out of that mindset of like, let me just take this, and then if I get it, let me just be quiet and shut up, and then so that nobody gets mad at me and they let me stay a little bit longer because I'm comfortable here. I know for a fact that I've had a good, cushy, comfortable job where I could do it in my sleep. And God said, I'm going to make you so uncomfortable that you have to get up, out of this situation and be who I called you to be. And I know for a lot of people who aren't religious or whatever, I will say that whatever you call it, the universe or whatever, people around you sometimes know what you're capable of before you do. They see that greatness in you before you see it.
And they'll treat you differently based on what they are able to sense.
Good or bad, right?
Absolutely.
Because there'll be some people who will be threatened by it. Our Madam Vice President, before she became president, before she became VP of the United States, Kamala Harris, she said, your ambition, she said a couple of times, she said, your ambition will be questioned. And I say that, like, your ambition will be questioned. Like, people will have issues with your ambition. It'll be misunderstood, it'll be questioned or whatever. But you just know on the inside and have people that'll reaffirm it with you, right?
Absolutely.
That's my thinking.
You know what, Drew? Okay, so you're reminding me of a few things. Let me first start off by saying that what you shared, that pivot, is definitely what we would consider a Get My Life moment. And I'm so grateful that you shared that. I will never forget working on my mission. I was like, what is my mission? Right now, I understand it as it being to build community through storytelling. Right. I do that here on the Get My Life tour, my Forbes column, and tech now. And I'm just like, okay, this is what I'm doing. Right. Building community. And that looks so many different ways. I love the fact that you shared your mission, and you dropped the mic again a few times, but we ain't mad at you. Okay. You know, your mission superseding a job title, a company, the work, not the work that you do every day, right? But just like what's on that job description. Mm-hmm. I really appreciate that. And I hope that someone tuned in is just like, okay, right? Because like you said, jobs come and go. We've seen that during this demic. Like one day, next day, right now, not now, somehow, some way. And so holding firmly to that mission, right? And being encouraged and not being married to the perception of others, right? Especially as it relates to the currency, as you called it, of the job and the work. I absolutely love that. And let me tell you, I was roller skating the other day because I love roller skating. Okay. And I was looking at this mural and I couldn't believe what I was reading because I was like, this is such a kitty mural. Okay, it's cute. But then I stopped while I was taking a deep breath. It was hot outside, y'all. And what was written in the mural is your ambition is relevant. And so you sharing the words of our vice president in talking about the ambition being questioned, I'd like to add what I saw in that mural while roller skating. Your ambition is relevant. And, I'm going to threefold this. What I hear you saying is that you have to not only trust and believe, but have a strategy for your ambition. For me, that's coming up a lot, right? Even going back to your time at Morehouse and the conversation you had with who I would consider to be a sponsor
Yeah.
of yours, at that time, having a strategy for your ambition is so important. I'll never forget being at a very pivotal point in my career. And I was just listening to sermons. I was like, okay, sermons and sticky notes, because I needed to get through. Okay. I was like, I'm just not going to eat. I'm going to fast. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to listen and wait for a word. And I remember Sarah Jakes Roberts saying, you have to have strategy for your favor.
Mm-hmm.
And you are someone who I would consider, with all due respect, to be favored.
Yeah.
You said Dirt World, Mississippi, even with all of the legacy in your family, right? And I'm just picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah.
You really have been favored. And it sounds like that. You take it seriously. And I think it's part of the reason why you show up the way that you do and champion for others. It's a selfless work. And like you said, your mission should serve others in English. And I'm just so excited about who you are and everything that you are sharing with us, because it is so timely, right? And the work that you're doing at LinkedIn is very meaningful. I really want us to get into, because you've already given us so many tools, right? You've
Yeah.
given us your Get My Life moment. I'm like, oh, this is such a rich conversation. Okay, let me tell you something.
Appreciate
The price is going up for everybody tuned in,
that.
because you are giving us all that we need to go back, show up confidently, authentically, and in a way that we are able to position ourselves to advocate for ourselves and community around us. So
Yeah.
thank you first and foremost, right?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Oh, look, I'm over here quiet. I'm like, look, sir, just give us what you got. You are more than welcome, right? For those who are finding themselves at the intersection, right? Be it, they're a new high school grad who's deciding not to go to college,
Mhm.
a college grad, those in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s,
Mhm.
my mom is pivoting right now. And
Well,
she's someone who I thought has had life figured out for quite some time. Is there any general advice or resources that you can share with them as they position themselves to pivot or enter the workforce, especially during this climate?
yeah. So clearly I work at LinkedIn, and I truly believe that they, particularly people of color, Black folks, should have a LinkedIn profile. I think for a lot of reasons. I mean, the the stats say that we make up about 14% of the US population, but we make up about 28% of the active conversations on Twitter.
Mhm.
LinkedIn is a platform that was born out of creating economic opportunity. Imagine if we over indexed in a space that was built for economic opportunity. And so I unapologetically say that I think that we should be in that space. Here's the part of that is that imagine being in a space where every 10 seconds somebody gets a job on this platform. Every 10 seconds, right? Like, that's just table stakes. Like, imagine what a tool like that, particularly a tool that is free, could do in the lives of people. And so one of the things I say is, our data also shows that younger people, while they say, they're looking for jobs that align with their values, and I think that that's a great thing for them to do. But A whole third of them said that they don't know where to start. That they generally don't know where to start. I think we got to do a better job in schools and teaching people how to look for work and how to find work and how to position themselves for work. But it is still very much an employee market out there. I think with the exception for probably younger people, because younger people are looking for those job opportunities. And so what I say is that for younger folks, there are a couple of things. One, get on LinkedIn, start to play with the tool. Make sure that you have a great image and a great photo for your headshot. That doesn't mean that you have to go out and get a professional headshot. It just means that you shouldn't have a beach selfie as your picture unless you're a surf instructor, right? Like it means like take a picture of how you would look, on when you go in for the interview, and that's going to be helpful. Number one. Then I would say there's a tool that I absolutely love. It's called #OpenForWork, and you can signal to people who are hiring and people in the LinkedIn community that you're ready and you're open for work. Here's what you're looking for, and it also triggers lots of algorithms for recruiters who are hiring. And that's across all types of jobs, right? Like there are tons of jobs on LinkedIn that do not require a college degree. We're really concerned and really invested in what we call skills first hiring. You're going to hear the president of the United States talk a lot about skills first hiring and skills based hiring, because we truly believe that there are lots of jobs out there that you can get certified for, that you can get online training for, where you don't have to go to a 4-year college to get those jobs. You got to lead with your skills. And so even people who do have 4-year degrees or have master's degrees, talking about your skills and writing out your LinkedIn profile and even your resumes too, focusing on your skills, things that you actually do well, that alerts algorithms as well, right? Job alerts is another thing that I think I love. Job alerts, it lets you look for a job while you're eating, while you're sleeping, while you're working on your other job that you're ready to leave, right? And what job alerts does is it allows you to go into the system and say, hey, here's the profile of the type of job I want. I'm really interested in these four companies. I really am interested in jobs in this city or this geography. I'm really interested in jobs that require these specific skills or these specific job titles. You set up that profile, and then the LinkedIn algorithm starts to look for jobs that are posted all over our platform that match your criteria, and will send you an alert to your email inbox immediately as soon as a job that fulfills your requirements pops up online. Here's the thing, you got to go in and respond quickly though, right? If you find that job and then you get that email alert, early bird still gets the worm in a lot of those things. So job alerts is a really, really great way to do that. Like applying within the first 10 minutes of that job being in your inbox will increase your likelihood of somebody calling you back by 4 times.
Wow.
Right. And so though all of those things are really important. The other thing I would say is you got to start building a professional community. LinkedIn is a great place to do that. And finding people that you used to work with or that you used to work for, that you interned for, or people who in your church who you would like for them to be in your professional network. If you went to university, like people who are in Greek letter organizations that you're in, your sorors, your frat brothers. Think about people who went to your same school. Think about people who are at companies where you want to go work. The one thing that I always tell college students is your career office of career services. If you want a job in digital marketing, you need to go into the Alumni Association and ask them, how many alums do we have that's in digital marketing? Yeah. Can you connect me to those people, right? Like part of why you're going to university is so that when you become an alum, you're connected to all of the other amazing people who know how good your school is and how good your work is possibly. Building that network of people and start building that out so that you get better content that's coming into you. I would also say if you're looking for a new job, do your research, right? Like start to look at things like their website, their LinkedIn company page, their news. Are there any people that look like you featured in that work? That all of those things are really, really important. Those not only are they really important to be able to do that, but it's also your opportunity to say, okay, I'm not just part of building your career is building that network of people who know you and who will vouch for you in those situations too.
I really appreciate you sharing that because sometimes we think of these platforms as just another platform. And I can attest to the fact that if you prioritize making sure that you are visible in the best ways on a platform, especially LinkedIn, that opportunities will come your way. And so I really appreciate that holistic approach, right? Okay, so here's what you should be doing if you're just entering, get your profile together, and then all the way up into building a community. Sometimes we become really static online and we're like, oh, it'll happen.
Yeah.
But because LinkedIn moves in real time, like you all are doing a lot on the platform. I was just in a LinkedIn for Journalists webinar and I was like, oh, wow, I didn't even know
Yeah.
this was an option. Okay, all right. And so building community is something that can really position you well in the open to work feature. All of the different resources you all offer can really help us. And the fact that you said every Black person needs to be on LinkedIn, let me tell you something. We need that on a t-shirt. So if you
Yeah.
can get that on a t-shirt and
Let me
have
work on it.
that,
Let
thank
me work
you.
on it.
Send me one, please, in a medium, because it is so true. We are on these platforms in great numbers,
Yeah.
and we help these platforms thrive economically, right? Because we show up, we're loud, we're proud, we're strategic, and we have a lot of influence, right? We shape culture, we are the culture, and so on and so forth. And so, the fact that you are sharing, if we take this more seriously, especially on a platform such as LinkedIn, how powerful and how enriching of an experience we could really have, especially professionally, to build that generational wealth.
Yeah.
I really hope that people are taking that seriously. I really utilize LinkedIn. And so I hope people feel encouraged to do the same because it's not there for show, right? It's not this
Yeah.
static thing. You can really do amazing things. So come
Yeah.
on, LinkedIn. Come on,
Yeah.
Andrew.
I mean, I'll tell you this. I mean, I know that we originally were going to talk about some of the LGBTQ plus data, but I will say that like here's part of the reason why you've got to have diversity in corporate spaces is that when we looked at our data for early career folks, people who are starting out and looking for jobs, what I asked my team to do was I said, okay, well, what we know for sure is that if people who are just graduating from university are finding it difficult to sort of find their way in how they look for a job, what I know for a fact is that if it's hard for everybody, then it's probably even markedly harder for Black folks, right? Because we have all of the things, systemic racism, all the other things, right? And so what I asked the team to do was I said, yo, let's look at the cities with the greatest the greatest population of HBCUs, and then let's like take that list and then juxtapose that list with the top cities that we have on our list with the most jobs and the most opportunities for entry level talent. And let's look at those cities and where they're located in that geography based on the HBCUs around them, and let's give one step level of additional guidance to young Black professionals on, yo, here are the cities based on power of proximity to your schools, to your institution. We also know that 58% of Black folks live in the South.
Right.
And many of them want to remain in the South for lots of reasons, right? And so so when we took those lists and put them together, like that information is an incredibly useful tool if you're young in your early career and you're saying, yo, I'm not ready to leave Atlanta just yet, or maybe I'm not ready to leave Miami just yet, or I'm not ready to leave Houston or Dallas just yet.
Mhm.
Now I can take a look at this tool from LinkedIn that says, here are these cities that have the most opportunity and the most proximity to where I live currently. And you don't get that kind of double click on data and tools without people and teams inside of organizations and companies that feel like it's completely okay for me to say in a meeting of other people, hey, what about Black folks?
Hello.
Because I have no reservations in being in a meeting in a room full of people, whether they're a lot of people who look like me or no people who look like me, and saying, hey, what about Black folks?
You
Right?
know what? I love that. And so, because I want you to get to the LGBTQ data as
Yep.
well. You have so many touch points.
Yeah.
Morehouse, shout outs to the house. I went to Bennett in Greensboro. And so I'm like,
Oh, my
hey,
sister.
you know. And so I'm very interested in the data around North Carolina as well, because most HBCUs are in the state of North Carolina. And look, we're gonna plug in all this information in the show notes just in case you're
Yeah, just
wondering.
pop it in the show notes. I'll send you a link
Okay.
to it in the show notes.
Because
Don't even have to go there.
I'm
I'll send it
like,
to you in the show
look,
notes.
I need all of the information. We need all of the information.
Mhm.
But you're this Black man who is Morehouse educated, second, third, and fourth generation, college student or college grad. You also belong to the LGBTQ community. And so you're advocating on so many fronts. I am interested, especially with it being Pride Month, but just
Mhm.
no month peg needs to be associated for us to do the work or have the
Yeah.
data, right? So let me just say that. But given the fact that this is Pride Month, can you share those numbers with us as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that we are looking at is where we wanted to figure out what is the lived experience of queer people. We don't and what our campaign is Out 365, which we're going to be talking about all of this for the LGBTQ plus professional community all year round. But one of the biggest things that popped up in the data when we asked queer folks, like, how y'all doing? Right? Because people have not asked, like, how y'all doing at work? And because people, I think, forget that our work experiences as members of underrepresented groups can be vastly different from the experiences of our non-Hispanic, white, cisgender counterparts, right? Male and female, right? And so what we found was that about 53% of queer workers felt like that they still are at the position where they have to hide their identity at work. We also found that like over half of them felt like that they were having they were suffering from mental health issues because of all of the anti-gay legislation and anti-gay news that was happening in the current news cycle. And so why I thought that was so important is that, one, for us to talk about that was that so that queer people who are at work, queer professionals would say, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not the only person that is experiencing that. That's number one, but it's also to put data and analytics around their experience so that companies can take it seriously and say, oh, I didn't know that my gay and lesbian and bisexual and transgender and queer employees may be suffering in silence because of these things that are happening outside of the world. And you and I know that, like, there are things that happen to Black folks and in the Black community, and they will happen, and people at work are just going on with their lives like nothing else happened. And like, we at the house suffering, right? Like,
Right.
our mamas and daddies are calling us saying, yo, I want you to move back closer to home because
Yeah.
I'm scared that this is going to happen. Or, you know, I remember when I was at Nielsen and Philando Castile happened. And so many people accidentally in their social media feeds literally saw Philando Castile be murdered, right? And my office at Nielsen was the Black folks break room. That's what people said it was. And at one point during the day when like the video was like running nonstop, and it was like the third time that a Black man had been killed by police, and it was going crazy. There were 10 people in my office. 2 were crying, and they were like, I was like, yo, you should go home today. I was like, and one girl was like, he looks just like my cousin. I don't know why I'm sitting here crying. I was like, you just experienced trauma, right?
Right.
And there were meetings and people going on about their day, and like Black folks were literally in my office breaking down. And so I say that to say that we wanted to share out the data and the information as one, a tool for employers to say, oh, I didn't know that. Let me start to think about how I use and engage employee resource groups to make sure that people know that we have these mental health benefits, that we also talk to managers and say to managers, hey, just FYI, these are things that are impacting people who may work for our company that you may not know or may not recognize. Here's our opportunity to just be aware, so that if Jill is on this project and Jill is a lesbian with kids and living in Florida or living in Texas, Jill may be really concerned about the anti gay legislation that focuses on kids in her state, right? Like, this is just a way that we thought, hey, no one is asking people these questions about their professional lives. If LinkedIn can't do it, who can? And we decided to do it, and we decided to be really bold about it, and to share out the data, and also to in places where we understand and have a solution to start talking about solutions. So talking about leaning into employee resource groups, talking about getting, using a platform either like ours or another one to look at empathetic management styles, right? And understanding and being empathetic in how you manage people who don't look like you, or who don't worship like you, or who don't love like you do, right? All of those things are really, really important. And we wanted to talk about all of that data, because what does it mean if you know a third of a third of queer employees said that if companies don't make a statement about some of the things that are happening, they're going to start looking for another job. And so what I've always said is that consumers have more voice and more choice than they've ever had before, but employees have more voice and more choice than they've ever had before. There's a company out there that will not let these moments go by, that they will take a stand, and they will make their actions go along with the stance that they take. And that's going to be a place that's going to look incredibly enticing to the top talent that's out there, queer or otherwise, right? And so more choice, right? There are more companies that are taking these stands. But employees also have more voice than they've ever had before. And there's a generation of employees now that when the company doesn't react and to respond to these things, they're going to be vocal about it. And we've never seen that really happen before, right? And so what I like to say to companies is that there's a business reasons for why we should be more active and more aware. I mean, the US queer population spends about $1.4 trillion every year. So think about that. If you think about the spending power of the LGBTQ plus community, it's like that's more than the GDP of Australia, Spain, and Mexico, right?
A lot of money.
It's a lot of money, right? And so now when you start to think about, people are less and are fewer and fewer people are willing to spend money with companies and brands and organizations that treat them poorly in mass. Right. And so I think that that's one of those things that we're going to have to recognize, is that it's also about, what does your reputation look like? How does your brand show up in the world if all of these things are happening and you're not taking a stance, right? Or if your employees are begging you to take a stance and then they take that conversation externally instead of internally. And we've seen that happen with companies and corporations in the last few months. A vast majority, the majority of queer employees want their companies to take a stance against a lot of this sort of anti-LGBTQ plus legislation that's happening. There's a real fear out there. And if you look at Edelman Trust Barometer and all of those things, where people have, the data shows that many people have lost faith in government and they've lost faith in like traditional organizations, very much, religious organizations, the whole nine yards. And they're looking for companies and corporations to fill in that empathy gap. They're looking for them to be a moral agent of sorts in these struggles for equality and social impact. And that's a new religion for most executives and most business communities, but it's a religion that they're going to have to wrap their minds around, not only for their consumer base, but for their employee base too.
Absolutely. If someone's showing up and giving you so much of their life, they absolutely have to receive more than a paycheck and benefits in return.
Yeah.
Right.
No employee and no employer wants a check the box employee. No employee wants a check the box employer. That means that I've got to be proud of the company I work for on more than just the 1st and the 15th. Right.
Okay.
And that's a new model that used to be enough for people from underrepresented groups.
Yeah.
The 1st and the 15th used to be enough for a completely different generation of queer people and Black people and women. Mm-hmm. That's not enough anymore, particularly for millennials, particularly for the Gen Z world, and more folks like me and my generation are following suit of the younger folks. Is like, it's not enough for us either. Like, we're now entering a stage in our lives where we feel like we've done too much work to put up with that now. And Absolutely. So we're leaving too, right? It's an interesting inflection point and a time in history.
I need days of rest, equity, unlimited PTO. I need perks. I'm like, where's my swag box? I need a swag box for my dog Oatmeal, my mama and them. I need it all. I literally want it all. And in these conversations, I'm asking for it. And to your point from earlier, ask and you shall receive. You'd be surprised. These corporations are definitely, I won't even say bending, but taking form. And so I appreciate you sharing the data. I also appreciate the way that you're kind of arming us with this data, right? Because not only is it good for public information, I really hope that people are listening to this and are eager to go read and understand the data for themselves so that they can equip themselves to be able to use it, right? Learn the language and begin to speak it so that you can really benefit from what has been put together for you and your community. I think that so much of what you shared are, number one, our tools and really these resources that can position you well in conversation and just in the way that you show up. So I'm super proud of the work that you're doing. Somebody has to do it. And I hope, okay, round of applause, because you really are doing it. And there are so many people who go to these mundane workplaces and they just show up and they leave. And it's like, but I'm like, yo, you get to show up and really kill it. And of course, you've worked towards this, but that excites me. And I hope that it excites you, yes, you, who is tuned in, because you have the same limitless opportunities and possibilities. Stay open and know that they exist for you as well. Andrew is living proof that it's possible, okay? Look, and as I speak to you, I'm speaking to myself.
Absolutely.
Look, you have given us so much. I don't think I've been quiet this much all season, but I've been like, you know what? I met a woman who turned 81 years old yesterday. I was looking for some home good items. And I went to the ladies' room and her sister was like, oh, I'm just waiting for my sister. Oh, today is her 81st birthday. Black woman, we're gonna give you the age, fine wine. We like, fine wine, and so right? her sister comes out of the restroom and I'm like, it's her 81st birthday? And she's like, yes. I'm like, okay, so what's the secret? Mm-hmm. And she said, I learned to be quiet when I needed to. Mm. And I was like, whoa, okay. Yeah. And I was like, Lydia, you hear her? Okay. And so I bring that up because not only is it sage wisdom, but I felt the need to listen more than I chimed in on this conversation, because you really have blessed us with an abundance of information, with your story, with your years of expertise and experience. And so I just want to thank you for the way that you've shown up on this stop of the tour. So thank you.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you for letting me join the tour. I really appreciate it. You're as a storyteller, you're what you just said about silence has always resonated with me too, because I think for me, I've always been a talker, so I had to really like lean in to learn how to just shut up sometimes. And what I feel like what I got from what you just said is that you know we're always sort of figuring out, is this the moment where I stand up? Is this the moment where I speak up? Like, is this a moment where I see something and say something? Here's the beauty of not of making sure that you're in space with where there's more than just you, where there's more than just you, where you're not the only one, is because when you create space where there's multiple Lydias and multiple Drews in the room, it gives you the opportunity to like, now I don't have to take this one. Lydia got this one. Like this particular this microaggression over here, Lydia can say, you know what? I'm gonna sit here. My brother Drew got this one. I know Drew got this one. He about to get it. He about to get it. And so I think of that silence, that the privilege and the benefit of being able to be silent largely comes from when we make space where there's somebody else who still got it. So that gives us the opportunity to regroup. And they got that one. I'm gonna regroup and I'm gonna save some soul to keep on this one because I know Lydia got me. Right? We got to make more space for more people. Success is not zero sum. Like, it's enough for all of us to eat. We got to look at it like that. So thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me come and share. And I appreciate it.
You are more than welcome, but don't thank me just yet, because it is officially time for you to drop the mic. You've beat it up. I'm like, don't look. This mic, is this still on? I need you to tell. Is his mic still on? Hello. Okay. And so I'll give you a moment, but when you are ready, the stage is yours.
Yeah. For me, the thing that I would say is the last thing that the ref says to a boxer before they ring that bell is protect yourself at all times. And that's what I say to people of color, Black folks. That's what I say to queer people in professional spaces. We're talking about getting your career right and getting your life right, is protect yourself at all times. Don't let these jobs rob you of your agency, of your edges, of your hairline, brothers. Like, don't do that. Like, do not feel like you have to suffer through. There is a place where you can show up and your authenticity will be seen as an asset. You can find those spaces, and there's somebody right now creating a better one than the one that's out there now, and a better one than that, and a better one than that. And so what I say to folks is protect yourself at all times. That means that when you start to feel like that this feels like shackles and not wings, move before God moves you, right? Because you are too talented, and there's too much opportunity out here for you to suffer, and too much for you to suffer in silence. And so the thing that I will say to everybody that's getting their life right is that protect yourself at all times. You are the best thing you got. And so protect that like you protect your house. You protect that like you protect your car. Protect that like you protect your stuff. You the best thing you got. And so protect yourself at all times. That means make space for you to refill. Protect what you bring in, protect what you allow people to bring into your space. There are going to be some times where you can't push it out. But how you take care of yourself and make sure that you release that and get that off of you before you bring it into your house, or get that off of you before you let it sit into your spirit. Protect yourself at all times. That's my end to it.
And there you have it. You know, I am so full from this conversation. I am. I'm so grateful. This conversation is so timely. And I can only imagine the impact that it is going to have in the lives of many. You have shown up, you have showed out, and you are right where you need to be. And I'm so grateful that you are positioned the way that you are in life, personally, professionally, spiritually. Yes. Come on now. Look, let people know how they can get in touch with you and stay connected.
Sure. You can find me, of course, on LinkedIn. You follow me on LinkedIn or reach out to me on LinkedIn. Andrew McCaskill, McCaskill on LinkedIn. I talk a lot of shit on Twitter, so all tweets are my personal opinions. At Drew McCaskill, DREW McCaskill, McCaskill on Twitter, and yeah, like reach out there. That's where I say the things. I say the things about work, and I say the things about life in those two spaces. So
I love that. And as always, to be connected with the Get My Life Tour, visit thegetmylifetour.com or follow us on all social platforms at the Get My Life Tour, with the exception of Twitter, because it was too long. So it's at Get My Life Tour. And if you'd like to stay connected with me journalistically or just to follow some of my lifestyle shenanigans, be sure to do so at Lydia T. Blanco on all social platforms. Look, if you didn't get your life during this stop of the tour, I don't know what you were doing. It's not possible. You got your life, and I need to know that you got your life. So let us know what you think in the comment section. You know, if you want to send Drew some love, do so on social media, or let me know at joinme@thegetmylifetour.com. That was an email address, joinme@thegetmylifetour.com. Look, I'm going to take all of this in. I'm getting my life. And I hope that you are getting yours. Until the next stop on the Get My Life Tour, continue to show up, be you, and do great things. And of course, be kind to others. It has been real. Peace.